you are. It's me, Debbie, and live from another hotel room. I'm in Munich this time, and I wanted to cover something, and I want you guys to join in and ask questions if you have any. Yes, I still have a little makeup on from speaking today. Otherwise, I normally don't put on makeup, as you guys know, low maintenance. So I don't really use Twitter. If you tweet at me, even the app I use does not pop up a notification. I don't know why. I keep asking customer support and they don't know. So I have a service that will like once or twice a day email me like people are tweeting at you. So I find out really late. I'm just very passive there. It's not my place. My place is LinkedIn. And so I found that there were some guys tweeting at me because they heard I wasn't a fan of the Lean UX book, and they seemed to take issue with that. And they were making accusations, but not asking too many questions. So I think I know what questions they're trying to ask, and I figured I would answer them here and see if we could start a discussion among us. The discussion will not be about the Lean UX book. I'll save that for another time. The questions were more about how would I define collaboration and how would I define design by committee. Now, many of us would agree, though maybe not all of us, that these are two different things. And again, some of you might feel like, no, that's really the same thing. If you're collaborating, so I would say I see them as two different things. And we also know that the definition of both of these things can be broad and can be subjective. So we might not have the same definition. This might be an agree to disagree type of thing. So I'm going to start by saying that let's talk about collaboration. Now, collaboration can have a very broad definition because even if we go back to its original Latin roots, you see the word labor in there and you see co in there, and it really just means working together. And so any way that two or more people could work together in any situation would be a collaboration. When a parent helps a child with a school project, that is a collaboration. If I am doing some UX, CX design architecture on something and I call in another CX expert to take a look at it, that is a collaboration. When people I'm mentoring want me to look in on their work and I'm giving them some ideas on things to try differently, and we're kind of looking at it together, you could say that's a collaboration. We are working together. So ultimately, there are many ways to define collaboration. So again, we might not all have the same definition. And if you're watching this live on YouTube or LinkedIn, please feel free to tell me your definition of collaboration, and then we'll move into definitions of design by committee. So how would I put this? So let's see. For collaboration, for me, I believe all these things are collaboration. Even when you think about some negative things that happen at your job, let's say you're a UX designer, and let's say there is someone from another role or discipline, product, engineering, marketing, whoever it might be. Let's say they just want you to be an order taker. And they just want to tell you, put a blue button there, make this a checkbox. You could still say that's collaboration. Is that design by committee? I would say probably not. I could see how you could say it is. I would probably say not really designed by committee because I'm kind of being ordered around. So there isn't a committee feel to it. There is a little bit more of a dictatorship feel to it. So that's probably so, but could that be a collaboration? It could. It doesn't sound like a positive one. It doesn't sound like one that one side of that equation is going to love. I know I don't want to be an order taker. I know many UX pros don't. But hypothetically, that could fit into the definition of collaboration. So how do we get into the idea of collaboration versus design by committee? Because many of us, though not all of us, will say, hey, we love collaboration. We want to do more collaboration within our department, outside of our department, but we don't want to design by committee. And I hear that said a lot, though, again, some people do disagree with it. So we don't all have the same opinion or perspective, and that's okay. And the way that I see it is when I talk about collaboration, especially in the talks and books and stuff that I do, to me, collaboration is any positive uh, uh, working with one or more people. So it could be one other person, it could be bringing in a team of people for maybe an ideation session. That would be a collaboration. And I also think of collaboration. So great. So the example, I just did a talk. So a great example of collaboration is someone gives me requirements on a project. What's one of the first things I do? I go to engineering. Engineering, I just got this project. I don't want to design something or architect something that you can't build. Let's talk about this project, even though I may not have concepts yet. Let's talk about this project from the engineering side. Let's talk about engineering architecture. Let's talk about APIs and services. Let's talk about security. Let's talk about DevOps. What do I need to know for this project, especially if there are limitations? Because sometimes there are. And we, UX people, should be spending more time and being more proactive to reach out to our engineering guy, gal, and other buddies to make sure that we are learning early on if there's anything we shouldn't design because it can't be built or can't be built within the scope of the current project. That is a great collaboration. That is two people or two teams coming together equally. Nobody's in charge of each other. There shouldn't be a power struggle there. We just need to know what engineering is doing and what their limitations are and what some of their boundaries might be so that we can build within that. Because as much as UX wants to dream big and CX wants to come up with the best thing for the customer, we know that the reality of it is it has to fit within what our engineering team can build, assuming this is a digital product. So, so that would be thing one. To me, that's a great example of collaboration. I also collaborate with product when I'm working on stuff. I want to show them my work so far, not really for their approval, but to make sure that they feel it's matching requirements. Maybe that's BAs too, matching requirements, matching user stories if we have them. Hopefully we have them. So these are the things that to me, I think of when I think of collaboration. I think about it could be internal to the CX or UX team where I'm maybe working with a junior on something, and it can be outside of us where we are working with. But I think one of the operative things that is a differentiator for me is if we're collaborating. I don't know. I didn't think about this. I don't have a script here. So I ultimately, in my world, CX and UX should have the final say on CX and UX, of course, where it's within the limitations of what engineering can build and the scope of the project and product. So in a dreamy dream world, we are not giving up our power or our decision making to someone else. It's not like I designed something and then product looks at it and goes, no, I think it'd be better if we designed it this way. We've all been through that. That could be defined as collaboration, but obviously turns into a power struggle, turns into a culture problem. So yeah, it's collaboration, but it might not be a positive experience. Now, what's your definition of collaboration? I've got 17 people listening live. Tell me about what you see as collaboration, because now we're going to try to draw the line between collaboration and design by committee. To me, design by committee is, or anything by committee. It could be research by committee. It could be testing by committee, because obviously there are books out there, no names named, that say things like, see if I have the exact quote here, even though I promised we wouldn't go too deeply into the book, I'm talking about. So here, so let me give you an example. This book says, research is collaborative. This means that you don't rely on the work of specialized researchers to deliver learning to your team. Instead, research activities and responsibilities are distributed and shared across the entire team. Now, some people are calling that democratization, which I don't like because it sounds like we've been a dictatorship and now we're trying to democratize what we've been doing. And yet none of our product isn't trying to democratize product and bring us in. Engineering doesn't try to democratize engineering and bring us in. So when I read that, I don't hear collaboration. I hear design by committee. and I hear this pseudo democratization now, or research by committee. So how do I know that? And for those of you who know what book I'm talking about, it's at Kindle location 1781. If you have the Kindle version of that book, or because maybe you've burned the paper version. So why is that research by committee? Well, because very clearly it says research activities and responsibilities are distributed and shared across the entire team. And it continues to say, it's essential that you and your team conduct research together. That's why we call it collaborative discovery. So again, that is not the definition I have of collaborative. That goes beyond working together. So maybe there's like a Venn diagram here, maybe like concentric circles, like there's collaboration. And then we kind of outstretch collaboration. We end up in design by committee or research by committee. So this book continues to say, where am I? Outsourcing research, now they mean to your internal research specialist, dramatically reduces its value. It wastes time, it limits team building, and it filters information through deliverables, handoffs, and interpretation. That's a Kindle location 1789. So could you call that collaboration? You could, they do. But I would say that is definitely work by committee, design by committee, research by committee. And it's clear because it says it right there. It says you're going to do this as a team. It's designed by committee or research by committee when I can't do it myself, and then be collaborative. So hypothetically, let's use this example. Let's say I'm going to do some UX research. Let's say I'm going to interview 20 customers because we're undertaking a research project, 20 interviews. In my world, let's assume I don't have specialist researchers on my team. Let's assume I'm doing it just to make this easy. I would plan that research, recruit the right people, undertake the research, spend time going through those recordings and notes, and come up with a nice, compelling, short as possible report with some sound bites and some quotes. Then, to be collaborative, I would be sharing that with other people to make sure they're aware of this research. Another way I could be collaborative is to invite some of my non-UX teammates to witness that. Maybe it's in a listening lab where they're on the other side of a two-way mirror. Maybe they're coming with me and we're going somewhere and they're going to be very quiet. They could be watching that research take place. Maybe ahead of time, I spoke with some people about what questions I plan to ask, and I got some extra questions from them. These are ways that research could be more collaborative. But when you take a look at it, ultimately, the final decisions on the planning of the research, the undertaking of the research, the interpretation of the research, the reporting of the research would be mine. I own it. It's not shared across lots of other people. Nobody else is writing that report. Nobody else is interpreting that research. They're leaving it to me as that specialist. If you are doing things by committee, whatever you want to call it, if it's by committee, then it would look more like what this book is describing. So again, let's read it again. Don't rely on the work of specialized researchers to deliver learning to your team. Instead, research activities and responsibilities are distributed and shared across the entire team. It's essential that you and your team conduct research together. So again, in that case, what they're saying, and they say it in other parts of this book as well, they're saying the planning of research, the undertaking of research, the interpretation of research, the reporting of research is done by the team. And in this case, this book is referring to the cross-functional team. So your product managers, maybe a project manager, people from engineering, maybe somebody from marketing, whoever is for this particular project on that cross-functional team. So I can see why they would call that collaborative. It is people working together, but it removes my autonomy, it removes my power, and then we might run into power problems because who owns this? If this is owned equally by everybody, then who makes final decisions? If there are 8 of us on this team and we all saw the research differently, we had different interpretations of it. We heard something a customer said and we took it to mean different things. Who wins? Not that it's a winning and losing game, but whose interpretation ends up being the one? Do I get to choose the interpretation because I'm the UX person or the researcher on this team? And if so, why would I want everybody trying to do those interpretations? So the by committee stuff often assumes that we all have the same talents, we all have the same skills, we all have the same experience, we all have the same knowledge, possibly training, that we would all be equally as good at these research elements. I'll call it planning, undertaking or executing, interpreting, and reporting. But if we were to look at another role in our company, let's say developer, well, can we democratize that? Can we do that work by committee? Can everybody get together and develop? Can the whole cross-functional team develop by committee? Can we all be writing some code, or should we stand over the developer as they are coding and say, I think I would do it another way? That would be coding by committee. And obviously we've got the micro version of that. We've got pair programming, but that's used for good and not evil. But there's a good reason why pretty much nobody else at your company does things by committee. Marketing doesn't say we've got a new initiative, so we're going to not make the final decision on this ourselves. We're going to bring in the committee. Ultimately, a committee can end up being a very not lean experience. It can burn a lot of time for a lot of people and take them away from other things they have to do with their job to try to do our job with us. And I don't believe we need other people to do our job with us. Ultimately, that's how I would define by committee. And for those of you live with me, how would you define work by committee as different than collaboration? Please write it in the comments. I'm also going to try to check on YouTube to see if we're getting any comments there, because I'm mostly looking at LinkedIn. So let's see, where were we? So I would say, you ever notice that this is just not happening in other departments? They're not saying everybody gather together and decide equally what the marketing department's focusing on this quarter. The marketing department says, we're the marketing people, we're experts, we understand the business goals, here's what we're going to focus on, and maybe there's room for collaboration. Hey, product, what do you have cooking? Hey, UX, what do you think of this? But we don't all do it by committee. And that to me is a key difference, that when we do things by committee, we are giving up our power. And again, there's lots of ways to collaborate, to collect ideas from other people, to do work with them in some way. So once in a while, maybe I'll get on a call with an engineer and they've got an idea for something and I want to consider that idea. So maybe I open up Acture, and as they're talking about their idea, I'm throwing together a little quick prototype and saying, is this what you need? And that way I can make sure I understand that person's idea and see if that idea could be a possible match to what we're building. Is that designed by committee? Depends. If I get to make the final decision on that, then I don't feel like we've done committee. Because to me, the core of the committee tends to be that the committee also makes the decisions. And I tend to think of collaboration as, this is mine and I own it, but I'm working with others to get their perspectives and input and feedback. But again, let's see what some people are starting to write in the LinkedIn thing. One person has written, when I talk about experience working in collaboration, they ask if I am more UX UI designer. They think I am more UI design in front of developer. How do we proceed in such situations? I don't understand that question. I'm not sure. This is something about an interview you've had and how people are perceiving you. I am not sure I can answer that. What do you want me to change how they're perceiving you? I'm a little lost in this question. Maybe you can rephrase it. Our good friend Caroline has said collaboration, share insight, show discoveries, measure to see if it's on track for the project and the brief, don't ask for approval, see if it's on track. I think those are some good definitions. I think I would agree with that. And also that means that before the project starts, we have to have those metrics and other things ready to go. We have to know that the goal of this project is to have 5% more free trial signups this month, next quarter, whatever it is. that our customers will spend an average of X dollars more or X, Y% more. We have to have those in place to then be able to measure those things. That's going to probably come a little bit later in once it's released. But we could certainly be collaborating with different people and say, okay, here's what UX wants to measure. How are we going to do it? Here's what, okay, marketing, what do you want to measure? Oh, we wanted to measure this other thing. Okay, let's make sure that's in there. Product, what do you need to measure to make sure you know how this went? Engineering, what do you measure other than engineering velocity, which we really need to get away from and get back to customer satisfaction? So there's so many ways that these things can be measured, and it can be a great collaboration to learn from everybody what they need to measure, get that over to engineering. That doesn't sound, it sounds like it could be a committee thing, but ultimately I can't imagine someone pulling a power play on somebody or saying, or trying to outvote each other or whatever. So that would be an example of that. I believe in collaboration within our department with other UX and CX practitioners. I love to pair seniors and hire together. I love to pair seniors and hire with juniors so that there are some mentorship opportunities and room for work reviews and growth. That's a great internal collaboration. And then I love to collaborate with everybody outside of our department. Even people in some of the tech areas where you feel like, UX doesn't really get involved in that. No, I want to talk to security. I want to talk to DevOps. I just want to be connected to everybody so that if something comes up, we know each other. They know I'm available. I can ask questions. Just establish that relationship. But when I think of by committee, I think of design thinking exercises and design sprint exercises where we get everybody in a room and everybody is doing UX's job. That is the difference. If I go to a product manager and I say, here's this prototype I've been working on, am I going in the right direction for this project? Am I matching the user stories and the requirements? They're not doing my job. They're doing their job. If I go to an engineer and I say, here's where my concept is going, check out my prototype. Does this look like something engineering can build? They're not doing my job. They're doing their job. I would have to say that would be maybe for me the core difference between collaboration and something done by committee, or again, some people are calling this democratization, where magically we're all equally good at UX all of a sudden, and everybody is doing UX work. Everybody's doing research, architecture, design, testing, whatever it is. I would have to say, now that I think about it, because I didn't prepare this ahead of time, that would be the difference for me. Let's see. Let's check if any YouTube questions. So I think that would be the difference for me is when it's by committee, it really sounds like someone who normally doesn't do my job is going to show up to a meeting or an exercise and do my job, maybe without me, maybe with me. And I don't need them to do my job with me. I have lots of ways to collaborate. I have lots of ways to collect their ideas. I have lots of ways to collect their feedback. I have lots of ways to, as Caroline was saying, share insights, share discoveries, share my work. Caroline also says, what would you say are some actionable ways to involve other teams from their busy day-to-day? How does one really collaborate between teams without accidentally letting people do jobs? Yeah, great question. That's kind of what I'm up to now. There are definitely ways to collaborate. And again, once we are asking people to research with us, design with us, remember, there's a difference between them being an observer and them, as this book I'm reading out of says, well, this is my book, but I'm quoting another book in my book. There's a difference between the collaboration and, hey, come plan research with me, come undertake research with me, come interpret it with me, and write the report with me. So at that point, they're accidentally or on purpose doing our jobs. And again, the fallout from that, among other things, is codependency. And the fallout is also, they think we can't do our jobs ourselves. They think here's Debbie again. She needs me to research with her. She must not be very good at it. Okay, I'll go research with her. So Caroline, I think the line there is, there's ways to show people your work and get their feedback on it without making it seem like you want them to do the design. And some of that may just be the way you set up what you're going to show them and say, you know, this is what I've been working on. This is where my concept is now. And try to ask very specific questions. Because if you ask, what do you think? Then that's really open. And you could find that people are like, oh, no, I would design it differently. Okay, great. Now you're right. They're accidentally doing our jobs. So I try to keep my questions a little bit more focused on what I'm hoping to learn from them. So that might be, does this look like it's matching the requirements documentation? Does this look like it's fulfilling the user stories? Have I missed a user story? These are much more specific questions that are aimed less at, please assess my work and please decide if you like my design or not. Again, these are people outside of UX, versus, hey, there's something specific I'm looking to get from our interaction. And I might even put that in the meeting agenda, that hi product, I'd like to meet with you for 15 minutes to show you where my prototype is this week or this day, and make sure that it is matching products requirements, and try to keep it focused there. So that's one suggestion. I do that with engineering too. And my focus with engineering normally is, hey, this is where my concept is going. Here's my prototype. I want to make sure this looks like something engineering can build with the time, budget, people, scope, APIs, services, whatever that we've got. And again, that keeps people more focused, because I find that when people accidentally say, what do you think? Or what do you think of my idea? Or how do you like my design? You may get answers you really didn't want or expect. You may get people talking about how they perceive the quality of your work. And you may or may not have wanted that. Let's see, Kranti is here, and she says, collaboration can also be achieved by design reviews of project with the entire design team, so everybody's on the same page and we learn a lot from each other. It also provides new sets of eyes to get great feedback from the team on what we're working on. So if I'm understanding you correctly, Kranti, you're saying by the design team, you don't mean the product manager, the project manager, the engineers, the marketing people. You're talking about like maybe CX, UX, UI, sometimes copywriters, I think can be a great set of eyes on things. So your content strategists. So I think you're talking about that group, what's commonly called CRUC, or creative and UX. So your visual designers, I think that's a great way to do it. And in fact, somewhere in my book, let me see if I can find the page, because I've got the color printed version and it jumps out. I show what I call waves of collaboration. And it's an approach where as we are doing our work, who might we collaborate with? I'm looking for it, and it's not jumping out at me right now, but I know it's in here somewhere. Here it is, waves of collaboration. Let's see, can you see that? Let me see, I can't see it. I'm not looking at myself. Here we go, okay. Waves of collaboration. Whoop, whoop, okay, it's hard. I'm in a dark hotel room, this is hard to see. But basically the idea is that the first people we as UX and CX people might collaborate with would be our own other fellow designers. So again, visual designers, content strategists and writers, researchers, anybody from kind of that creative and UX side of things. So that's our first line of collaboration. Then I say our next line of collaboration is products. That's when I go out to them and say, does this match requirements and stories? Did I miss anything in requirements and stories? Then my next wave of collaboration is engineering. Hey, engineering, this is where I'm headed with this. Can you build it? Is there anything here that I've designed that you wouldn't be able to build for your own limitations? If it looks good at that point, I might be ready to take it to user testing, or it might need some more work. But that could be a good time to then take it for some user testing, because internally it's going in the right direction. Outside of that, my last wave of collaboration is anybody outside of those goals who also has a bit of a horse in the race for the project and would want to stay on top of our work in progress, even if it's still in progress. So that might be marketing. It might be, let's see, who do I have in the book as examples? I don't have my glasses on. Stakeholders, project management, marketing, etc. So again, these are our people outside of that first bubble who might still be involved in the project or have a horse in the race and want to stay on top of where UX appears to be going. But I sometimes don't show it to them until it's been through at least one round of user testing, because especially with stakeholders, if you show them something too early, sometimes they fall in love with it or fall in hate with it, and it can get derailed from that attachment or interaction. So design reviews are great internally, and we know that that's not a power play, and we know that's not giving up our autonomy. That's within our own team and our own peeps. But once we are having people outside of our roles and our teams do our work with us, I would call that by committee, and that would be something I'm against. And I also notice no other role is doing it. Marketing doesn't say, come do marketing work with us. Everybody stop what you're doing, block out a day or more of your calendar. Engineers, go sit with marketing and help them plan their initiatives. Now, someone could say, ooh, maybe we all should. Maybe everything should be done everywhere by committee. And maybe someone thinks that's the future, and you can always try to run your company that way and see how it goes. But I believe that that would end up a frustrating experience for people who see themselves as specialists. So marketing people want to spearhead the marketing stuff and run with it without the voices of the committee, the too many cooks in the kitchen telling them what they could or should do. So I'll breathe for a moment. I'll see if there are any questions that you guys want to ask. And anything you want to add to how you draw the line between what you would define as collaboration and what you would define as work done by committee, and how you feel about those things, if you think they're good or bad. Any questions? Anything? I know we're delayed about 30 or 45 seconds. So let's see. Udit says, collaborative design is a process that brings together different ideas, roles, and all team members. I believe it reduces confusion and guesswork. So this is actually where you and I would disagree. Because as I was just saying, to me, once we're bringing in other roles to design with us, to me, that's by committee. Again, if they are doing something that looks like it's our job, they are designing, then I would say, they're sketching solutions, they're sketching screens, they're in a design sprint. To me, that's by committee, and that's something that works against us. It dilutes our specialty, and it makes people believe everybody can do UX. Why do we really need Debbie? I was just sketching screens, and I'm the engineer, so I can do that. So I think that it could cause confusion in that, what is my role? If everybody can sketch and everybody thinks they're a designer, what is my role? There's confusion there. There could be a culture problem there. So I would be concerned there. Let's see, Caroline is back. I think it's important to balance business, user, and technological needs. Processes are never perfect, but getting insight from both business, development, and users is a must in taking on a project. Well, sure, ultimately it is a balancing game. As much as I want to see us doing our own specialized work with our collaborations, of course, and not with our by committee work where everybody's designing or everybody's researching or everybody's doing some aspect of our job, we still have to connect with stakeholders. We still have to connect with the business. We still have to connect with the people representing them, typically the business analyst at many, but not all companies. And of course, the customers. And so ultimately, everything is a balance and juggling act for all of these things. And it's hard because the business and stakeholders usually want to win. And we typically want what we've learned from customers to win. And that's where you get collision. That's where things are often not aligned. And the other people will expect you, the UX worker, to kind of fall into place. Like, hey, because I'll hear, hey, Debbie, you're not making stakeholders happy enough. You're not really caring enough about the business goals. And I'll say, well, I'm looking at the customer needs and the customer's goals and the customer's tasks and who the customer is. And I don't understand why the business wants this if the customer needs this. The alignment problem isn't me, but I know many companies want to paint the alignment problem as the UX person because they are usually looking at something else. Caroline also asks, how do you move past or avoid working in silos? And again, the key to that is collaboration. I say that in all of my talks and all throughout the book. Delta CX book, plug, available on Kindle or heavy paper book. It's collaboration, because I find that the siloing comes from a few different things. It comes from when there's a gatekeeper and there's someone who separates UX and say engineering and says, you guys shouldn't talk to each other. You have to go through me, or you guys shouldn't talk to each other. So that's automatically a silo. We also have silos from Agile and Scrum and other software development methodologies, approaches, flavors, paradigms, mindsets, whatever you want to call them. Those very often believe that UX isn't on the team. We're not on the Agile team. We're not on the Scrum team. That is an immediate automatic silo. If we're not on the team, then there's silos. And very often these, even Safe Agile will say, well, we're solving siloing by not having UX on the team. Well, no, you're making the siloing worse by not having us on the team. So I found in my research that many Agile coaches who have worked more closely with UX and UX in companies know one person from UX needs to be on the software dev team. So part of breaking that silo is getting us on that team. So I want to be assigned to the software development team, and I want to make sure that we're involved and we're included, we're in meetings, we're in planning, we know things ahead of time. That can really break down a silo, getting UX on the software development team. And that starts to push it away from, oh, UX, they're just the people that sketch the thing that the people wrote in the requirements. Because then people think, oh, the requirements, that says everything this thing is. And UX, they're just the people sketching it so we can see what the screens will look like. And when people think that, and it's still very common, then it's easy to be siloed, because why do we need to be in a meeting? Why do we need to have a voice? Why do we need to be involved in this or that? We're just going to sketch what somebody put in the requirements, right? We're order takers. So I think a lot of these misunderstandings lead to the siloing. And then there's also UX and CX people siloing themselves, because we get frustrated. We get upset. There's definitely emotions involved here. As much as I would love work to be unemotional, we've got negative emotions about going into meetings and feeling or being belittled, misunderstood, disrespected, circumvented, overruled. And then we say, screw you guys. I'm just going to work on this thing, and when it's done, I'll throw it over the fence at you. Well, now we've got people angry at us for being in a silo. We have people angry at us for not being collaborative. We have people angry at us for handoffs. We have people angry at us for throwing stuff over the fence and walking away. And in that case, we are the jerks. So we have to make sure that we are still being collaborative, even when it's with people and teams that we know don't get us and don't respect us. You can't let that stop you, and you can't let that make the siloing worse, because then the misunderstanding is worse. You have a better chance of changing their minds about you and about UX if you show up and you make their jobs easier. That's the key. They don't often care about customers. They say they do, but a lot of people don't, and that's okay. We'll get past it, but well, it's not okay, but we can't fix it. What we can do is we can make their jobs easier. How can you make a product manager's job easier without betraying your customers? How can you make an engineer's job easier without betraying your customers? These are things that can break down silos. And I tell people in my talks, you're going to have to put your UX hat on. You're going to have to be that CX or UX pro or junior or senior, and you're going to have to go and find out from product managers and other people, what do you need from me? What are you expecting from me? Now, if we learn that they're kind of expecting the wrong thing, like if someone says to me, oh, Debbie, I just expect you to make pretty wireframes. Well, that's a great early conversation to have about why they would not be getting pretty wireframes from me or at all or in general. Now, if they say, yeah, I'm really hoping you'll do more research to validate some of these customer needs that we may not be right about. And then I want you to do some architecture and design, and then we're going to test it. And oh, great. Okay, we're on the same page. Now, what kinds of deliverables do you expect from me? What helps the product team? I know what I want to make for my own CX UX process, but what do you, product manager, need from me? Hey, engineers, what do you need from me? I have that conversation on every project I join. At the kickoff meeting, I say, I tend to deliver fairly realistic but undesigned actual prototypes, and a little bit of documentation for things less obvious from the actual prototype. And from the visual designer or UI person, you'll get the style guide, the component library, the design system. What else do you need, engineers? What will you need from us? And at what point do you tend to need it, so that I can make sure I'm giving you the right thing? I'm breaking down the silos, I'm creating and enhancing the relationship, and I'm also setting up, here's what I do, and I want to make your job easier, and this is how we can work together. So, hey, William, good to see you. I'm talking about UX stuff. So silos are a huge problem. Some of it is being done to us, and some of it is being done by us. But I believe we can fix a lot of it with our own behavior changes, with our own process changes, by treating our coworkers like they are a UX project to us. I want to learn more about them and what their needs are and what their fears are, and what I can give them to make their jobs and lives easier. Quick station break. Hello, I'm in Munich speaking at DevOpsCon. I'll be doing a one-day workshop tomorrow. My Dev and UX program, also formerly known as DevOps ICU, where I teach non-UX people a little bit about UX, or a lot, about user-centered design, about why we're specialists and not everybody can do our jobs, about how we fit into Agile and how we're truly lean using the original Toyota definition of lean versus the Lean UX book, which you guys know I'm not a fan of, and how we can integrate UX into software development processes, how that saves engineering time, money, and sanity, and how we can collaborate better. I've got that as a 1.5, and 2 day workshop. And so tomorrow at DevOpsCon, if you're here in Munich, you can do my 1 day workshop. And so a little station break. Hello from Munich. It's 7:40 at night. And I will want to take this makeup off and go to bed soon. But if you guys have any questions, please ask them. And also, you're also welcome to give your ideas, even if we disagree. Udit and I didn't see things the same way, but if he's got a system that works for him, he should give it a try. If he's open to trying something else, he should give that a try. I don't have my glasses on. That looks like two hands doing this. I think that's a happy sign. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce people's names very well. I have my glasses off. Faisal, I hope that's okay. Thank you so much for joining. So again, any questions or thoughts? I want to hear what you guys think about collaboration versus designing by committee, research by committee, UX by committee, and where you want to see the line drawn between collaboration and other people outside of our roles and outside of our department trying to do some or all of our jobs with or without us, because I think that's where I would draw the line. So I'll give it a few minutes and see if anybody has a question, and if not, we will wrap up the surprise live stream for now, and with thanks for everybody who joined. Any last questions or thoughts? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no and wind this one down. So thanks to everybody for letting me randomly pop up on the live stream with this question today. Thanks to those who participated and joined in and pressed like or something else. Thank you, Kranti. Thanks for what you added, because design reviews are important as well and part of good collaboration within our department. So thanks again, and thanks to some random people I don't know on Twitter who kind of brought the question up, and I'll send them this link. And I don't know if they want to watch a half hour of this, but see if they 43 minutes of this. Yeah, maybe not so much, but see if they're really interested in my take on this or not. So thanks to everybody. Good luck at your jobs. I hope you are not doing too much by committee work and you get to do your own work with good collaboration. And I'll see you guys around LinkedIn. We've got another live podcast coming early next week. I keep forgetting to put it up, but mark your calendars. It's going to be Monday. No, sorry. Tuesday. Yes, Monday the 9th. I've got to put it on LinkedIn and YouTube. Monday the 9th, we will be broadcasting at 6 p.m. Europe time, 9 a.m. Pacific USA time, a little bit late for India. Sorry, everybody over there, but our guest is on the East Coast. It is the always wonderful Darren Hood, and we are going to be talking about emotional intelligence. So I'll get that on LinkedIn, and please join us then for that. Thanks, and good night, everybody. Now I have to find the